Johnny No Stars. When I was still an active Scientologist in the 90s, it seemed like every other person I met in Scientology was a past life clear. It was a very popular memory to have been audited by LRH himself, and for some reason always in St. Hill. Even then, this made no sense to me. There were past life clears who were born in the 1940s, but the first clear, John McMasters, wasn't introduced until 1966, so that doesn't make sense. Still, these clear statuses were thrown around like candy to anyone who wanted one. Also, where are all the past life OTs? Seeing there are probably more past life clears than clears were actually made, you'd think you would have a lot of past life OTs too. After all, it's way easy to remember your past life as an OT, right? Yet I cannot remember ever having heard of even a single past life OT. All right, Johnny, well, thank you for this question. You are actually looking at a past life OT. Or past life clear, I should say. Actually, that was me. I wondered about the OT levels, though, and I had auditing to address whether I might have been poking around in the OT levels in a past life, and that this was could have been one of the reasons why I was having some of the case trouble I was having in Scientology. And I did remember being audited at St. Hill and earlier, and being in the Sea Org in my last lifetime, and all kinds of fun stuff. Which kind of leads me to the direction that I think a lot of the past life OTs, just to address that, they don't really happen very often, because a past life clear is a lot easier to produce than a past life OT, because with a past life OT, you have to say OT stuff. And unless you're doing this with deception in mind, and you go on the internet and go looking at all of it, and then go into an auditing session and say all this stuff, that would be deceptive. And that would kind of, not really be the point of doing Scientology in the first place. It's about the experience of doing the auditing and getting rid of the aberrations, the engrams and the other reactive mind stuff, and then the body thetans that you deal with on the OT levels. So if you had a legit recall of that from a past life, well, great. But I never met anybody who actually did that. I did meet lots of past life clears. Well, maybe not lots. I've met a handful of them. It was popular for a period of time, I believe in the late 70s and 80s, for past life clears, and natural clears was also a thing that was coming around, where a person simply asserted that they were always clear, that they had never had a reactive mind ever. And Hubbard, I think there was one line somewhere or something where he talked about, being a natural clear. It was a line on a correction list or something, were you always clear? And if that read on the e-meter, then you could pursue that and, oh yeah, I've always been clear. And then you're a natural clear, which kind of means that you're sort of a baby thetan in the material universe, as I understand it. You've been around for that long here, because those of us who have been around forever, not all thetans arrived in the physical universe at the same time. Some are younger than others as far as their emergence into the physical universe. Hubbard said it all started 4 quadrillion years ago, but he also said other thetans have come into this universe since then. So they might not necessarily have had all of the, experiences and whatnot that all the other thetans have had. And of course, though, if you're here on Earth at all, you have experienced, just straight up, if you're here, you are here because you experienced the Xenu OT3 thing, and you got trapped here or sent here and stuck here. So that's kind of a certainty in Scientology, that everybody needs OT3. Everybody needs to get the Xenu stuff cleared and learn about the body thetans and do the body thetan thing through the OT levels. And if you guys are tracking with all of this, by the way, you've been watching a lot of my channel, because I'm throwing pure Scientologies out here and answering this question. This is just, kind of the nature of this. Now, as far as past life clears, though, it seems you might not know or are not thinking with the fact that Hubbard claimed that he made clears all the way back to 1947, 48 time period. He said that he, in his experimenting with Dianetics, before it was even called Dianetics, in Hollywood and in other places where he had been working on what became Dianetics, he made clears. He said that. He said it very outright that that there were clears made as early as 1947 or 48. I can't remember which year, and but definitely pre-1950. And he said that he audited these people. They were very happy, but they didn't even really have a name for what they were. Dianetics hadn't even been written yet, and Hubbard was just doing whatever it was he was doing, and he was able to make these clears fairly rapidly. And he said that his struggle through the 1950s was trying to teach other people to do what he was doing. And, whatever. What he was, obviously what he was doing was messing with people's heads, but Hubbard was trying to teach other people how to do that, I guess. Okay, so as far as the clear status is being thrown around like candy to anybody who wanted one, that wasn't my Scientology experience. I really did not run into that many past life clears. And I oversaw, in HGC, I oversaw auditing delivery for many, many years. So yeah, it came up every now and again, but it wasn't really that common in my time and in my experience with it. Miscavige has, if anything, been pretty down on and invalidative of past life clears, past life OTs. And it's more like, well, you got to show me proof. You got to show me the money. And one of the things that they asserted that came straight from Miscavige's mouth in the early 2000s, when the whole clear status thing started being reviewed, is Miscavige decided that everybody who was clear needed to have it looked into to make sure they were clear. And if you had not received the operating rule on that review, and RTC representatives around the world enforced this, and auditing delivery around the world had to comply with this or conform with this. And that is that if you had not received any Dianetics auditing and could not remember having had Dianetics auditing in your past life, even if you were asserting past life clear, and there was no Dianetics being run on you, then you weren't clear, because it was only Dianetics that could produce a clear. So this was how a lot of clear statuses were knocked aside, invalidated, told they're not that way. And of course, clear is a delusional fantasy state anyway. So we're really not talking about anything real here. So it's easy to change the rules, move the goalposts. You can do this at any time with this kind of arbitrary psychological nonsense that Scientology engages in. So clear is this very, very vaguely defined, very easy to manipulate state. Somebody who no longer has their own reactive mind is the official definition of a clear. What the hell does that mean? You're defined by what you don't have. It's almost like an atheist. Well, I don't believe in God. Well, are you sure you don't believe in God? Do you believe in God a little bit? You might believe in God. Do you have any belief at all? Is there any kind of thing in your mind that resembles a belief? I mean, you could go round and round and round, figuring on this for years. Because it's just not a very well-defined thing. And to say you don't have this thing, your own reactive mind, okay, but again, prove the negative, right? It's very hard to do, especially when you're dealing with something as subjective as trauma and abuse and our reactions to that. How we deal with that. And if your standard is, well, I no longer feel traumatized, well, lots of things can produce that result. Taking a walk can change your mood, and then you don't feel so traumatized in the moment. But give it a week, and something will happen, and you might feel, you're not having such a great day. Does that mean you're not clear anymore? If you're a Scientology clear and you're on top of the world, but then the next week you're all down in the dumps because you remembered, that something bad happened to you, or your boss gave you a hard time, or your kids aren't listening to you, or some other thing is stirring you up and making you upset. well, shit, am I clear now? I don't know. You could question and run around with this, or be told by Scientologists, well, you have this and this and this happening, therefore you can't be clear. And it's that simple. Boom, you're clear, now you're not clear. I mean, it's that easy. Is kind of the point I'm trying to make here, right? This is all just sort of, wordplay and messing with people's heads, right? Which is where it gets not okay. So as far as the not making sense, as far as the dates thing go, I hope I clarified that Hubbard's claims included anybody could be a past life clear if they had, memories of, or could legitimately claim that they could have been audited by L. Ron Hubbard as early as 1948. That's in the books. That's completely legit. And of course, from that point forward, Dianetics could be claimed to have been run in some fashion or another because, there was a lot of Dianetics being done in 1950, 1951. And that's kind of all there was before Hubbard developed Scientology. So you could have a legitimate claim to past life clear that predates John McMaster's. John McMaster's was the first official clear Hubbard sort of sanctioned out of St. Hill using all of the modern clearing technology that he had, worked on for 17 years prior to that, 18, 19 years prior to that. But Hubbard claimed that clears were made before McMaster's, that did happen. He had done it. Some other select few had done it. What Hubbard complained about was that everybody couldn't do it. It wasn't easy to do. There was no factory assembly line process that you could guarantee somebody could be gotten to the state of clear. And John McMaster's represented the first of the assembly line type clear that anybody could produce this. And any auditor could take a person in, and over the course of, hours, days, weeks of time, they could make a clear. So anyway, I think I'm getting the point there. And as far as past life OTs, I never actually recall running into a legit past life OT. I just don't. I don't remember that ever happening. There might have been some, but no one I ever met. And like I said, I came kind of close. I was thinking along those lines, wondering about it, talking to my auditor about it. She was asking me questions, asking me about, what about this, what about that, trying to, get more out of me. But it never really did pan out. I couldn't remember anything that was even approximately close to body thetans. I'd never imagined that was a concept until I read about it, in Hubbard's writing after I got out of Scientology. So there you go.